The #1 mistake players make in pickleball hides in plain sight, and it's poor shot selection. Pickleball is like a game of chess, and if you want to play at the highest possible level, you need to make sure that you're not making the wrong choices. So in this video, I'm going to show you the key moments where I see players making shot selection mistakes, and I'm going to show you exactly how to fix them. These are the types of tips that will make you play better immediately. So make sure to pay close attention, watch the full video, and I guarantee you'll get results. So the first shot selection mistake that players make is when they're in fast exchanges or hands battles, they get tunnel vision. So they feel like they keep needing to hit the ball through the player in front of them, even when they're losing in that scenario. So I'm sure you felt this before. A lot of the time when you're in a fast hands exchange, you just feel like you need to hit through the person in front of you, even though they're taking control. So in this situation, a lot of the time, if you're losing control of the hands battle, it's totally fine to switch to their partner who might not be even ready for that shot to come at them. So if I'm in a hands battle with Drew and I see him taking control, instead of trying to go through him, I can switch to his partner, right? Who might not be in as good a position, and that can let me get back into the rally, right? If I just keep going at Drew, he's slowly but surely going to get more and more of an advantage to where he kills the ball and wins the point. So when you're in these exchanges, do not just feel like you need to hit to that player in front of you. It's totally okay to deviate from that quick exchange and go to the partner. The next shot selection mistake I see players make is they target their opponent's strengths and not their weaknesses. So a good example of this is in a hands battle, like we just were. If I'm playing against Drew and I see him hitting shots like this, left and right, I need to understand that he has a really good backhand counterattack, right? Which a lot of players have a really good backhand counterattack. But if I keep going right there, I'm not going to be able to win in these exchanges very frequently because he's really good at that shot. So in that specific situation, I need to try maybe to go for speed ups at his forehand. Or maybe, see, he's not as good, right? A lot of players are really good at one thing and not at another thing. So you need to make sure they're always testing them to see where you should be attacking. And not every player is going to be the same. So another player might have a bad backhand counter. And in that situation, it's good to target that shot. So you just need to make sure you're making the right choices by assessing your opponent's weaknesses and then targeting them. Another example of this, maybe your opponent has a really good overhead. Maybe you're playing a tall person that can reach lobs. Against that kind of person, you probably don't want to go for a lob very often. But on the flip side, maybe they're short, maybe they're not very good at moving back to hit a ball above their head. That's the type of player that you do want to be lobbing against. So when you're playing games, try to make these little assessments point by point, then start going for their weaknesses and avoid their strengths, especially when you're attacking. And guys, if you have a spot that you love to target on your opponents that works for you really well, make sure to drop it in the comments to help everyone else that's watching. The next mistake I see, and it really annoys me when I see players do this, is when their opponents are trying to come forward and they hit a drop, they give me one of these. And they just get into a dink rally, right? So if you saw there, that might have been a little bit of an exaggeration, but what I did, Drew hit a drop that was pretty bad, and instead of attacking it, I just sort of started dinking with him because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. Guys, if the ball is above the height of the net, you need to do whatever you can to end the point, right? So that wasn't even that high, but at the very least, you need to be hitting an aggressive roll volley. So if I'm hitting a ball around the height of the net, I want to do the roll volley like I just did there. But if I have it any higher, I should be smashing the ball and right at his feet, right? So the higher the ball is, you need to punish your opponent for giving you that shot. So if they're hitting a really good drop and you're hitting it down here and they're coming in, okay, maybe there you need to start dinking, right? There wasn't much I could do there. But the shot selection mistake that players make is they get an easier shot and they don't punish their... Anything that's above the height of the net, the point needs to end, okay? You need to hit a shot that's probably not going to come back or that you can finish on the next shot. There is a roll volley zone where if they hit a decent drop, you know, you can't go too crazy. You could still do something like that. But a lot of the times they'll get that ball back. But as it gets higher and higher, you need to go for more power and you need to take control of the point. Don't make the mistake of being too passive and letting your opponents come into the net. The next shot selection mistake I see players making is when their opponents are in different positions on the court. So generally this means one person's up or maybe they're moving forward and their partner is back. They don't target them properly. So the way that you should think about this is if you have somebody up and somebody back, if you're in a poor position, you should try to go to the person back, right? So if Drew hits a drop to me and I see he's coming in, it's a good drop right at my feet, I'm way better off hitting it to his partner who's still back. Because if I hit to Drew and I'm not attacking, he can attack me. Whereas his partner's back, so they can't do as much from back there. They can't do as much damage. And they might hit a bad shot, which I can attack. However, if in the same situation, Drew hits a bad drop and he's coming in, I'm much better off attacking it at him, because when you're up, it's way harder to defend against a hard ball like that. So if his partner's back and I go to him, he might be able to reflex that ball back. So if you're making good choices with your shot selection, you will attack easy shots at the player that's closer to you, and you'll hit your safer shots to the player that's further back. So that's the way to think about it. You're not going to get to this position where one player's up and one player's back every point, but when it does happen, this is the way you should think about it.
Hey, real quick, we just wanted to thank you for your amazing support through our products, which lets us create these videos full-time. We've got some great gear we know you'll love, like the Ninja Ball, a quiet pickleball, perfect for practicing at home without disturbing anyone, or the Dinkmaster Pro, the #1 training aid in pickleball. Plus, our paddles offer top-notch quality at prices much lower than you'd typically find, because your support on YouTube means we don't need expensive advertising, letting us pass the savings directly to you. And as a thank you for watching right now, use code SELECTION at checkout for 10% off your entire order.
All right, guys, so the next shot selection mistake might be the biggest on the list, and it's that players try to attack when they're in bad positions. So what is a bad position? A bad position is where you're hitting the ball super low. Maybe your opponent just hit it really hard at you. Maybe you're farther back. Maybe you're on your back foot. You're not on balance and in a position to attack, yet you still tried to. So an example of this is, let's say you just hit a drop that wasn't that good, tried to come in, and your opponent hits it right at your feet. So that, I couldn't even get the ball back. What I don't want to do there in that situation is try to attack. That's not a shot that's good for me to attack. It's coming quick, really low. I have a horrible angle. I have to hit the ball up, right? So what you want to do in these situations is use the kitchen. So here, this would be a reset. I use the kitchen. Now I can move forward and take control later in the point, right? Another example of this is a hands battle. Let's say I'm in a hands battle and I'm losing. I'm just taking control. I can hit the ball into the kitchen. Now we're back into a dinking rally where I can try to take control again when I'm in a better position. So just like the first tip, where I'm losing in that situation, I can switch to his partner. I can also hit it into the kitchen to reset the rally. So you should get into the habit of, when you're in a bad situation, using the kitchen to reset the rally. You don't want to go down just hitting hard. So I don't want to be in this hands battle trying my very best to keep hitting aggressive shots, even though Drew's clearly winning. You want to use the kitchen so that you can attack from good situations. Never attack when you're in a disadvantageous position. The next shot selection mistake, though, has to do with your serve. And it has to do with how much risk you should take on your serve. So if my opponent is really good at hitting returns, a lot of the time, no matter what I do, they're going to get it back every single time. So let's say I'm going for the craziest serves ever. I'm going for like right on the tee as hard as I can. But no matter what I do, my opponent's hitting it well, then it doesn't make sense for me to take risk on my serve. So this doesn't mean that I should hit little powder puff serves like this, where he can take advantage of and make it really hard for me to hit a third shot. But if hitting closer to the line or hitting super deep isn't paying off, then I can sort of go for like an 8 out of 10 serve, where it makes it challenging for him, but maximizes my consistency. So you don't want to take unnecessary risk on your serve if your opponent is making all the returns, which is why when you watch pros, they don't really ever serve as hard as they can, because their opponents will get them back. So it's not really worth the risk. So let's say I'm playing someone and I go for that same serve, no one's home, they miss it. Well, then it becomes worth the risk. So assess whether your opponents are good at hitting returns, and then base the riskiness of your serves off of how good they are at responding to them. The next mistake I see is a decision-based mistake between drops and drives. So when you hit your serve and your opponent hits their return, on your third shot, as you probably know, you have the choice to hit a drop or a drive. And while against certain players, one or the other might work better, there's also certain situations where a drive is better than a drop and a drop is better than a drive. So if your opponent hits you a really high bouncing return that's shorter, this is generally when you want to go for your drives. So I have a high return, bam, I can slap the ball, hit it really hard, low at Drew. That makes it really challenging for him to return my drive. If he hits a really deep return though, in this situation, going for a drive is really hard to do effectively, and I'm putting myself in a bad position by doing it. So all you need to know is that in more defensive or neutral positions, a drop is usually better. And in easier, more offensive positions where you're closer to the net and have a higher ball, a drive is generally better. But you also need to assess if your opponents are good at responding to drives or if they're good at responding to drops. So you have to assess based on your opponents and the situation that your opponent gives you with their return. But what you need to know is be smart about this. Don't just do it at random, and you'll have a lot more success when you're serving. Guys, if you enjoyed that video, make sure to subscribe. We're trying to get to 250,000 subscribers right now. Be the first pickleball channel in history to do that. So if you want to help us make history, make sure to subscribe. And if you want to watch a video about how to move properly, so footwork, how to move properly on the pickleball court, watch this.